Shit, once he got the region, I got the junkie.
So someone from your car
That's what happened.
started shooting.
Yeah, confirmed. Thanks for the taser.
Cops stormed Tupac's mansion in a shocking midnight raid, tearing through decades of secrets and history. What the officers found inside shook the world of hip-hop to its core. Bullets, confessions, and hidden evidence lay bare a violent past that many thought was buried forever.
This is the indictment we've been waiting almost 3 decades for. It spells out the facts and circumstances and what justifies a Clark County grand jury in returning an indictment. Justice.
What made this moment hit harder wasn't just the police presence. It was where it happened. July 17, 2023. Henderson, Nevada, Maple Shade Street. A quiet suburban block where neighbors walk dogs and kids ride bikes. Then suddenly, armored vehicles roll in. SWAT officers jump out. And just like that, a murder that haunted hip-hop for nearly 3 decades snapped back into the present.
So this is the biggest development in the Tupac murder case since this all happened, since the murder happened. They never served a search warrant and showed up at someone's house with the SWAT team back in 1996. So this is definitely, it can't be over.
This wasn't a random raid. This wasn't about drugs or a fresh crime. This was about Tupac Shakur, a name that never really left, a case that never really closed. For years, people said the truth would never come out. Too much time had passed. Too many people were dead. But here were the cops standing outside a house tied directly to the man who openly said he was there when Tupac was killed. That man was Keefe D. Davis.
He leaned over on the window, we rolled down the window, popped.
Who was it?
They would drove on my side, I would have popped them. You know what I'm saying? But they was on the other side.
Right.
I'm innocent. I ain't killed nobody, never did ever kill nobody. They don't have no evidence against me. Came and put me in Las Vegas.
On paper, Keefe D looked like any other older guy living a quiet life. Married, suburban home, and no flashing signs of chaos. But his past told a completely different story. Keefe D wasn't just some street name floating around hip-hop rumors. He was a known Southside Compton Crip, a shot caller, a man whose word carried weight on the streets. And more importantly, he was the uncle and mentor of Orlando Anderson, the same Orlando Anderson tied to the fight with Tupac hours before the shooting.
Prove that I orchestrated this. You know what I'm saying? Your key witness orchestrated this. They top witness is the lead suspect.
What made Keefe D different from everyone else linked to this case was one thing. He talked. A lot. Over the years, he sat for interviews, he told stories, he laughed and explained details that only someone inside that car would know. Then he went even further. He put it in writing. In his own memoir, Compton Street Legend, he didn't hint. He didn't dance around it. He described the night Tupac was shot and placed himself right there in the middle of it. For law enforcement, that book wasn't entertainment. It was a roadmap.
Then in 2023, a breakthrough when prosecutors charged this man with ordering the hit, the only person arrested for...
So were you there that night in that car? What was your role?
No, I wasn't there. I wasn't there at all. No car or nothing. I wasn't even in Vegas.
Yeah.
They ain't got no proof I was in Vegas. They ain't got no gun, no car, no Keefe.
So when police arrived that morning, they weren't guessing. They had a search warrant tied directly to Tupac's murder. Keefe D and his wife Paula complied. No standoff, no chaos, just officers moving through the house, opening drawers, flipping mattresses, searching closets, going through the garage. Every room mattered. Every object mattered. Because when a crime goes cold for decades, the smallest thing can suddenly become everything. What they found shocked even seasoned investigators.
Our 8 News Now investigators of Valley Homes searched in connection to the Tupac Shakur murder investigation nearly 27 years.
First, the bullets, .40 caliber ammunition, the same caliber used in the drive-by shooting that killed Tupac. That alone sent shockwaves through the case. For years, the murder weapon was never recovered. Now, bullets possibly tied to that night were sitting inside a suburban home. That's not coincidence. That's a connection.
I like that people come to me and go, you did a good job. You know what I'm saying? When all my career usually has been, you know, you guys or this or that. You know, I was loving that somebody came and said, Tupac, you were a great actor. You know, you get a great part. So now I want to, you know, do that even more and do other parts. I want to do better parts. Like I want to Terminator 2 role or something different so people can really see the.
Then came the electronics. Laptops, phones, tablets, and external hard drives. Devices that can hold years of deleted messages, draft notes, photos, and timelines. Digital fingerprints don't fade with time, they just wait. Investigators seized everything, knowing that even a single recovered file could confirm what Keefe D had been saying publicly for years, or contradict it. Photographs were next. Old photos, gang signs, and faces from the 1990s. Images tied to West Coast street life at the height of the East Versus, West War. Some reportedly showed Orlando Anderson. Others showed scenes and people that lined up with Keefe D's stories. Suddenly, the past wasn't just memory. It was physical, tangible, sitting in evidence bags. And then there was the book.
These new pictures that came out of the shooting scene where Tupac Shakur was murdered 27 years ago. I don't know why we haven't seen these, but they've been in a vault ever since September 7th, 1996, the night that he and Suge Knight were in that BMW and were fired upon by the white Cadillac next to them on the Strip. Suddenly, we are seeing pictures we've never seen.
Compton Street legend wasn't just a memoir anymore. It was evidence. Prosecutors didn't see a former gangster telling stories. They saw admissions, details, a timeline that matched known facts from the night Tupac was shot. Keefe D had always claimed he was just being honest, that he had immunity at one point, that he was protected. But immunity doesn't last forever, and it doesn't cover everything. The raid made one thing clear. Authorities believed they finally had enough to move forward. Every item taken from that house was sent for forensic testing. The bullets, the devices, everything. Labs began comparing markings, data, and timelines. After 27 years of theories, rumors, and dead ends, the case was no longer about what if, it was about what now. And that's why this raid mattered so much.
Yeah, I like to think I'm a rebel. I'm revolutionary.
He's considered one of the most influential rappers of all.
Because Tupac's death wasn't just a celebrity tragedy, it was a turning point. A moment that changed hip-hop, street culture, and how violence bled into music. For decades, fans were told the truth was buried, that justice would never come, that everyone involved got away with it. But on that quiet street in Henderson, the past kicked the door open.
I smoked weed, I hung out with the drug dealers and the criminals, and I got...
And that made you feel better?
Interestingly enough, yes, because they have those same problems, and they found a way to get out of it. As a kid, this is what I was thinking.
September 7th, 1996, the night that changed everything. Las Vegas, MGM Grand, a crowd buzzing for the Mike Tyson fight, the lights, the energy, the noise. But behind the excitement, tensions were simmering hotter than the ring lights. East Coast versus West Coast. Death Row Records in red, Bad Boy, and their associates in blue. Everyone knew it was more than music. It was streets, pride, power, a war disguised as entertainment. And right in the middle of it all, Tupac Shakur, larger than life, with Suge Knight in the passenger seat, driving straight into history and danger.
I was poor in 1989, you know, I was in jail, so now we out trying to show prosperity and hope in the future. This is why I could sit in jail for a year.
A white Cadillac lurked in the shadows. 14 bullets fired. 14. Tupac hit multiple times, in the chest, the arm, the leg. Suge Knight grazed. Panic exploded. Chaos on the Strip. And Tupac, his last words raw, real, and defiant. F you. To an officer, to life, to the world that tried to cage him. That line wasn't just shock value, it was Tupac, alive in spirit, daring death to do its worst. And then there's Snoop Dogg, watching from the sidelines, hearing shots, seeing Tupac hit. The first instinct isn't clarity, it's fear, terror, confusion. Who did it? Was it over? Is someone going to finish the job? Snoop confronted the driver, trying to piece together the chaos. Adrenaline, anger, worry. He had to protect his friends, and deep down, he knew just how fragile the line between survival and death really was.
I never wanted to be a gangster. I'm a thug, but I'm a nice person. I want to survive. I want to make money. I want to be in business. I want to do it. But what's honest about the world is that no one's going to let me do that. So that's where the thug comes in. But if everybody just left me alone, I'd be a nice person.
No.
Snoop saw Tupac and Suge in action, and it was more than music business drama. It was loyalty at mafia-level intensity. Suge Knight wasn't just a manager. He was a general, a fixer, a man who made you feel untouchable or expendable. Tupac wanted that lifestyle, craved the power, the respect, the swagger, and Suge delivered. But that lifestyle came with strings, and when bullets started flying, the strings became chains. The East-West tensions exploded afterward. Vibe magazine covers didn't just report, they fanned the flames. Retaliation became almost ritual. Compton saw street wars flare. Deaths piled up. What started as a night at a boxing match became the spark for months of bloodshed. Snoop himself faced near-death moments, family under threat, attacks that could have ended his life in an instant. Yet he survived. But survival came with trauma, grief, a constant weighing of loyalty against safety, and the realization that leaving death row wasn't just an option, it was necessary.
The same world that everybody else lives in except for is magnified like 10 times. So they just do all of that, all the things that normal people do, just 10 times harder.
Meanwhile, the wider web of this story began to tighten. Keefe D, uncle to Orlando Anderson, wasn't just watching, he was plotting, waiting, entwined in the revenge cycles that defined this era. Suge Knight's influence connected music and gang life like veins and arteries. If you touched one, the pulse of the other reacted immediately. P, Diddy, Bad Boy Records, East Coast Stars, all part of a complex map where a single night could shift power, money, and reputation. One act of revenge could ripple across the country, changing hip-hop history forever.
There's no way of putting the brakes on, and he was trying, but if he stopped dead and walked away from being the gangster rapper, they'd get him anyway. Somebody who's out there is always trying to make a name for themselves.
Fast forward to 2023. The law catches up. Keefe D arrested September 29th without resistance, the culmination of decades of stories, admissions, and rumors. Bail drama hits immediately. Whack 100 tries to throw $750,000 on the table for rights to the life story. Judge shuts it down. No shortcuts, no easy exits. Legal strategy kicks in. Keefe D claims his book is entertainment, denies intent, brings forward new witnesses for an alibi. But the court knows the stakes. Tupac's murder isn't just a cold case. It's a cultural earthquake still shaking the foundations of hip-hop. Trial date set, February 9th, 2026. The world waits, tense. Because finally, maybe, justice could answer the question everyone's asked for decades. Will Tupac Shakur get it?
It gives me a certain amount of freedom in my music and just in general as a young black male to have, the opportunity to do movies where I can get money and, get a certain spot.
For Snoop Dogg, the story is personal. Surviving death row wasn't just luck, it was learning to navigate loyalty, danger, and survival. Friends lost, constant threats, and trauma that follows you like a shadow. But also clarity. He left gang life behind, focused on family, and realized the only way to survive was to live smarter, protect those you love, and channel pain into music. Tupac's death wasn't just a tragedy, it was a turning point. The East-West feud, the music, the violence, it all shifted after that night. And through all of it, there's redemption. Snoop's legacy isn't just surviving bullets or escaping gang wars, it's surviving the culture, surviving the trauma, and using it to influence the next generation. Safety, music, family, lessons learned the hard way, and the truth always finds a way. You can't outrun it forever, but you can survive it, and you can inspire those who come after you. That's what Snoop learned. That's what the world sees. And in that survival, Tupac's story continues, living not just in memory, but in lessons, music, and warnings for anyone who thinks they can play with power, streets, and destiny.